and welcome to our introductory series on API Gateway Manager. My name is Markus Müller. I am co-founder and CTO of APIIDA. And in this first installment of the series, we are looking at how to install the API Gateway Manager within your environment. So, if you have no license file yet, head over to our webpage, click on the products link. Up in the menu, click on API Gateway Manager, and if you scroll down a bit, you will find the option to start your free trial. If you complete the trial process, you will end up with a license file that we need for installation. The API Gateway Manager is delivered as Docker images, so in order to run it, you need to have Docker on your system. If you're going to test drive API Gateway Manager on your local workstation, you can do so by using Docker Desktop, which is available for Macs and for Windows-based PC. Information on how to install Docker Desktop can be found on their webpage. In order to get you running as quickly as possible, we provide a Getting Started guide, and you can find it on our knowledge base, so head over to kb.apida.com, click on API Gateway Manager, and down here we have the Getting Started section and the installation chapter. Now, we provide a sample Docker Compose that has all the services in it you need to run the API Gateway Manager on your local machine. In one of the later episodes of this series, we'll be looking at the needed services in detail, and how to configure them, and how to replace them with services that you already have running in your infrastructure. But for this very simple Getting Started tutorial, just copy over the file, create it on your local environment. Alright, and after you have done so, we can use the Docker Compose pull command to retrieve all the needed images right from Docker Hub. After that completed, we can start all the services at once by issuing the Docker Compose up command. When you start the API Gateway Manager for the first time, the services are automatically initialized, the database is created, the database contents are initialized, so the first start usually takes a bit longer than subsequent starts. So now we're ready to go, all the services have started up, and if you use the default Docker Compose file, you can access API Gateway Manager by going to HTTPS localhost. If you already have some other web server running on port 443, you can configure that in the Docker Compose file. When you first access the system, it asks for the license file that you obtained by completing the trial process or from our customer success team. You just select it and upload it to the system. If you have a valid license file, next thing that happens is the so-called first run wizard. And there, the Gateway Manager just asks for some very basic information to get up and running. So the first thing that you have to enter is the initial administrator, the initial user you would like to use. So you just fill out that information. Give it a password, hopefully a more secure one than the one that I'm using here in this demo. And the next thing that you can configure is what authentication provider you would like to use. The Gateway Manager comes with the inbuilt one, but we can also connect to Active Directory or basically any XAML 2.0 identity provider. For this tutorial, we'll just use the internal one. If you want API Gateway Manager to be able to send emails, to invite other users to the system, to send notifications to these emails, you need to provide an SMTP server. If you just want to test drive it, or if you don't plan on sending emails, you can just skip this step. Next thing you can configure is you can register a Layer 7 API gateway. However, we will skip this step and do it later on within the product. One of API Gateway Manager's functions is that it can monitor your APIs and it can alarm you if things do not go according to plan. And in order to be able to do so, we need to know what is an acceptable answer time, an acceptable response time for your API calls. And you can configure this default here. You can change it at any time. You can change it on a per API base. This is just that we have a reasonable default. So we just hit next, and that's it. First run wizard is completed. We close it down, and this is the initial dashboard that ships with the product out of the box. You can add new dashboards, you can change the contents, you can add some nice charts on it, you can really configure them to your likes. For this tutorial, we just use the default one. So now API Gateway Manager is up and running, but we have not configured any layer 7 API gateways in it. So let's do this now. Let's register our first gateway. The environments you see here, development, test, and production, are just our default values. You can change them any way you like. You can create additional environments. So you can have multiple production environments if you want to. You can rename them to your like. Let's add a single gateway. Let's give it the name of development. Add the connection details and tell him which user to use to connect to the gateway. You can also use certificate-based authentication. Now let's check if we entered the details correctly. And here we are. Prerequisite on the gateway is that RESTment needs to be active. And this is because we do all the communication with the layer 7 gateways through the RESTment interface. So that needs to be activated, that needs to be available. Our very own solution kit, the APIIDA solution kit, you only need to install it on the gateway if you plan on collecting metrics. So if you plan on really monitoring this response time, having call statistics within the Gateway Manager, then you need to install it. If you do not plan to use these features, you can just leave your gateway as is. So let's add this node. And when you add a gateway to the Gateway Manager, we index the contents of this gateway. So we get all the elements that are stored on that gateway, we get the metadata from it, and we store it in our own databases in order to not need to communicate with the gateway so much. Because the gateway, you bought the gateway to serve customer requests and not to serve management requests. So we get as much data as we can in this initial step and then keep it up to date and keep it in sync. Depending on how much content your gateway has, this can take from a few seconds to a few minutes. All right, our first gateway was added to the system. Let's add another one. Let's call it production. And again, provide the connection details. Okay, so now we have two gateways connected to our gateway manager. Now let's register some APIs. We choose our development gateway as the source. And now we get all the services that are stored there. Now we want to manage the API ops demo in this case, and we register this API. If we have a look at it, we can see that it is present in both of our systems. So let's put the production server, the production gateway, actually in the production environment. We missed that, so we just go back, click on production, edit its details, and move it into the production environment. And you can update this information at any time. So let's head over to our API again. Now this looks much better. And in order to conclude our Getting Started tutorial, we will do a migration from the development system to the production system. As I said, when I added the gateway, we index all of the contents. And migration is a write operation. And in order to make sure that we have the newest information possible, we index the gateway again before we do a migration. Now, as I'm quite certain that in that few minutes that elapsed since we created that gateway, since we registered it, that there hasn't been any substantial change, we can just skip that step. Migrations are always a two-step process. Unless you're pretty confident in what you do, then you can do it in one. So here we have our migration overview, we have the source, we have the target, and we have all the elements that will be migrated. So for example, the API ops demo that we selected will be updated on the target. This is exactly what we want to happen. But there is also a dependency, the private key. And if we do not change anything, this will be updated as well. This is something that we don't want to, so we set it to ignore. And we just save this selection, which basically tells the Gateway Manager to never migrate this element. Okay, so let's hit the Perform button and perform this migration. And that's it, we're done. Migration has completed successfully. Our target gateway has been updated. And that concludes our little Getting Started tutorial. Make sure to watch the later episodes of this series in order to really learn how to get the most out of the Gateway Manager and to learn exactly what it can do for you and how easy it is to accomplish that. So thanks for watching and stay tuned.